welcome to the Black Rifle Coffee Podcast. I'm Kevin Reeves. Today we have Jariko Denman, Mike Glover, and Jenna Bakken. Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys? Around the room, I'll answer the question for you. We like to start with how do you take your coffee, but you take it sweet, something usually.
I don't have a pattern. I
Yeah.
change it up every day. That's
Oh, you
how I
do?
take it. Yeah.
We call it the Russian roulette of caffeine.
What do you mean?
So
you just like to try different things.
I just try different things every time I'm somewhere. Yeah. But here, I'll give you this answer. When I travel, which I love to travel, as you guys know, every time I try a local coffee shop, I'll get a pour over and a shot of espresso, and just try that.
Yeah.
So that's how I judge them on their.
I was going to say
on their
that's how
shtick.
you assess them.
That's how I assess them. Yeah.
Smart.
A pour over and a cup and an espresso. But
Very nice.
Yeah.
Mike Glover.
I just like it black.
Cold, hot, any consistency,
hot.
depends on the season.
I like whatever the house coffee is. Because if I go to a place and I'm like, hey, whatever you got, whatever you're brewing, and that's the most common thing brewed, likely it's going to be consistently like okay. It's not going to be great. It's not going to be crappy. It's just going to be okay. So that's my go-to. Black, hot black.
Hot and black.
Hot
Got
and
it.
black.
Jenna, what do you got?
I like a little cream.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm a baby. I know it's like faux pas in this company to add anything to your coffee, but a little cream, sometimes some honey.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we're really in the milk business is what I've learned working here.
Yeah, I really like milk. I like dairy.
I have been putting like raw milk in.
Oh.
It's
Like straight out of the cow?
Oh, what is that called? It's
illegal
raw
most
milk.
places.
yeah, it's unpasteurized.
Unpasteurized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
there
right.
you go.
Yeah,
It's-
in Hebrew it's good. Like Utah, I think you can buy that shit like
Yeah,
off
you
the
can.
counter.
You just have to get a waiver. You have to sign a waiver, rather.
Oh shit,
Yeah,
really?
I buy it at Redmond's down here.
You
gotta sign a piece of
Yeah, I
paper?
had to sign a waiver. Even in California, you don't have to sign a waiver to get raw milk, but yeah, Utah, you do.
Interesting. What does the waiver cover? Is it like violent diarrhea or what?
Yeah,
what do
like
we-
if you die, it's not our
It
fault.
waives it,
Like
yeah,
you know,
waives
this isn't
all liability to die.
It waives IBS
Yeah.
for the rest of your
Yeah.
life? Okay.
Well,
awesome.
with raw dairy, hopefully you don't get that.
So the theme of today's podcast is Veterans Day, right?
Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day. Veterans Day
Day.
actually came out in 1947, right? Raymond Weeks was the first guy, World War II veteran, and it was in Birmingham, Alabama, which I was just there, conveniently. That was the first Veterans Day. I didn't know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Always on 11 November, right?
Always on. That was the first 11
Because
November,
it was
and it maintained.
Armistice Day first.
That's right. Yeah, then it changed to Veterans Day.
After World War One.
11th day of the 11th month of the 11th hour.
Boom.
Oh, is that a?
That's when the armistice was signed in World War One.
Got it. Really cool.
Yeah.
But it was, I think they called it Armistice Day up until.
Correct.
Up until it was
Yeah.
named. Actually, I lied. You were correct. The first time the term or phrase Veterans Day was 1947.
Like the switch.
Yeah.
Do you know why they switched? How we went from like Armistice Day to Veterans Day?
I don't know. Somebody couldn't pronounce
All those-
armistice.
There's a Women's Veterans Day.
Is there really?
Yeah.
Educate us. When is it?
I hate it. June 12th, I believe. In 1940 something, your date kind of jumbled up the dates and numbers in my head. It's actually not Women's Veterans Day, which I genuinely am not a fan of. We all put on the same uniform, of course. Like, there's things that you guys can do, I can't do. There's things I can do, like make a baby that you guys can't do, but you probably need your help.
Oh,
Like, you know, well, let's be careful how I word that. But, yeah, so it's actually not Women's Veterans Day, but it's touted as that, which I'm not a fan of, but it's when the Integration Act was signed in the 40s. I don't remember the exact date, but June 12th, so that women can like permanently be in the armed forces.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
That's
before
super
that, it was like they couldn't be anywhere on the front line, not just in combat, but just anywhere beyond.
Well, yeah, like so.
Nursing.
Correct,
Yeah.
and it was just like we were integrated in time of war as like a necessity, not as like a everyday kind of thing. So
Yeah.
they signed that on June 12, 1940 something. I want to say 48 now because you
Makes
said
sense.
it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I think it's like 43. I don't know. Don't quote me. But yeah, so that was when we were officially allowed to be a full-time part of the
Yeah,
armed
World War
forces.
II, like all the things that you see, Band of Brothers and all the reflections of World War II in the history, you don't see women anywhere except as nurses.
Correct.
Yeah.
Treating soldiers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a famous all African American women's unit and they just ran all the APOs in the army.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting little piece of history too. And then
Oh yeah.
the other big women's thing was let me mansplain women in the military here to you. The other one, and it's actually a really going back to how I love to travel. There's an awesome museum in I think it's Midland, Texas, that is the Women's Auxiliary Air Corps Museum. So during World War II, since all the men were pilots like in combat, they used women pilots to ferry the planes. So like they would go Boeing, pick up a B-17, fly it to all these airfields, and then deliver it
Saw that.
to there.
Documentary,
Like a
that's really
bunch
cool.
of them died.
Yeah.
Like doing that. But
Wow, I had no idea.
pretty cool women's military factoid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was
sorry.
gonna say, look how far we come, though. I mean, women are serving, and there's infantry, women combat leaders that are going to I interviewed Lisa Jaster, who was in the first group of 3 that went to Ranger School. She was the last. She was in the first group of 3, but she recycled every phase.
Yeah.
So she went. She was like in Ranger School for a year.
Just
She
get some
graduate?
extra training.
She got some extra training, but she didn't quit.
That's awesome.
She recycled every phase twice, or got to go on her second phase. So at the time it was Darby, Mountains, and Swamp phase, and then finished, and then is now a lieutenant colonel, I believe, in the infantry as an officer.
Interesting.
Insane.
Those are the hardest people, though. Everyone's like, "Oh man, you got through Ranger School first go." I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, but that means I had less exposure." Well, as opposed to like Pat Johnson, right?
Yeah.
Each phase 2 times minimum.
Yeah.
Came back gaunt as fuck. I'm like, "Ooh,
There was
those are rough."
so when I got to battalion, went to Ranger School. Back when I went pretty quick. I went in, it was 9.5, 10 months, and I got to pre-Ranger, and you show up and there's all the guys who've been dropped and recycled from Ranger School and all that, and I meet this dude. His name's Sarvin. I won't say his last name, but we're bullshitting. Like he's sharing a room and he's like, "Hey man, what company? What battalion?" I was like, "I'm in 275." "What company?" "Charlie Company." He's like, "Oh, that's what company I'm in." I'm like, "Oh, motherfucker, I've never seen you." And he had been in Ranger School at that point for like a year.
Oh.
And then he classed up with me. We went. He got through Darby, went to Mountains. He then got recycled in Mountains. Got through
This is
Mountains
a
again.
second go at it. Like recycle for a year, and then he's going.
And
back.
then and then he started again. And so then he got recycled after I went through Mountains, because I went straight through. So he gets recycled in Mountains. I was back from Ranger School. I'd gotten promoted to corporal. I was a team leader. And he came back without his tab.
No.
I thought he was going to come with 2 tabs.
No, he ended up being gone for like 19 months.
Holy.
How many
never
times
got his
can
tab.
you recycle?
Never got his tab.
I guess it depends. I mean, if it's a failure for standards versus medical, like
Yeah, there's
who
a whole
knows?
bunch of variables, right?
He just
Yeah.
he just
That
kept
makes
failing
sense.
patrols. Like he was kind of like he had a little bullseye on his back for some reason. I don't know what it was, but yeah,
Shocking.
he came back. I felt so fucking bad for this dude when he came back, because he comes back. He'd been in battalion like a year longer than me. Comes back, he met me like twice, and I was a corporal team leader, and he was like still a private. You know,
Did he get the boot?
he just ended up,
riding it out.
riding out his enlistment and
Yeah.
getting out, and he's like a software programmer and like fucking multimillionaire now. So
Ah,
Yeah,
good
what's
for him.
worked out.
At least
Smarter
he
than
stuck
he-
it out.
you don't need your Ranger tab to be successful.
Yeah,
Boys and
correct.
girls.
Correct. I do feel like we need to address the elephant in the room for the YouTube viewers that Mike Lever has drugged us all. So,
I can't. I'm looking at it right now.
I didn't take any
well,
boner
should've
pills.
no. I'm
Boner pill.
I'm actually gonna explain the fact that there was a fella came in. He had a nootropic. So whatever a roofie is, this is the opposite.
Yes.
This is a ceilingy.
Yeah.
And the only smart one. Well, no, Flory would be a roofie.
Because you're going up. It's
And-
an upper.
Well, what's a
It's a roofie.
nootropic? I don't even
No.
know what the hell a nootropic.
Nootropic is it could be the shout out to like Alpha Brain. That's like a cordyceps mushroom
Yeah.
thing
Okay.
that
It's
helps
brain
cognitive
thing.
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
brain
okay.
stuff.
We all need that, by the way.
Yeah, this one's too much.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's too much. And the only one that didn't take it and smartest in the room is the female veteran.
Yeah.
As opposed to all of our blue ass tongues.
Yeah.
I'm doing
I'm
algebra
sweating
in my head right now.
profusely. I'm sweating profusely.
I only didn't take it because he said something about it being a boner pill, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's probably not for me.
But
I have a boner. And I'm sweating profusely.
I'm nervous because, like I said, I started with a boner and then took it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Yeah. It's great, though. The nootropic, it's good. Alpha Brain is good,
Yeah.
too.
Oh, it's
I
great.
take that.
It's
Yeah, that's
fantastic.
my
I've
go-to.
taken that.
It's expensive as hell, though.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, about $4 a day?
Yes.
Ish.
It's
Yeah.
one bottle, the black bottle, the new one, I got it at Whole Foods. It was like $80 or something.
Yeah,
Did they
that's like
sell it at Whole
Do you
Foods? I was
like it
just
better than
Yeah,
the
they-
original?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't tried it yet.
I actually feel it versus the other one. I
Well,
just didn't feel.
Hold on. No offense against Alpha Brain or On It, but the original bottle you took two. The
Yeah.
Fancy Pants black bottle that's glass, which is awesome. I also use it as a spitter. You take 4. So is it really?
Oh, you're just doubling the dose, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Sorry, Joe Rogan. Not that you'll ever listen.
Whoever makes the blue pill, the boner pill, man, shout out to boner pills. 'Cause I'm feeling it right now.
Boner Pill Nootropics.
It's truly a Veterans Day podcast now. So I was trying to think, and one of the subjects I wanted to talk about was can any of you remember, I know I'm putting everybody on the spot, but were you ever deployed during Veterans Day? That's why I was asking you about our first push in
Yeah,
Afghanistan.
I have been, but that wasn't that one.
Yeah, I can't think of.
We were there like
Was Blessing Winter Strike?
Blessing. He died on Winter Strike. Yeah,
I don't remember if that was November. I don't remember when that was.
that was in the neighborhood. I don't remember exactly either. But yeah, I was deployed multiple Novembers.
Yeah.
I was as well, yeah.
Yeah, I think every rotation that I did, because we had a playbook, you're in the playbook, was over Veterans Day. So every one of them. So I got home at the end of November for every rotation for every year. So every year was Veterans Day. And I don't even remember us.
Even speaking about
didn't-
it,
yeah,
now that
it
you
just
said it
came
was
to
like,
me.
Yeah.
we never even talked about it.
I don't,
Yeah.
but I do remember being in. Sorry, I stepped right on you.
No, go ahead.
I do remember running a selection, and a buddy of mine, Mike, came in one day, and he had a case of the ass because we were working on a Veterans Day. This is doing a stateside selection.
Yeah.
And his way to rectify it was in the warehouse. He put up a giant American flag, and after that, he just felt better. He's like, hey, and he just said
Yeah.
hey guys, I want everybody to remember today's Veterans Day. It's an important fucking day.
Yeah. But when you're working on active duty, are you technically not?
It wasn't active duty.
Oh.
Yeah, it was later. It
Oh,
was,
okay.
It was,
You're
it
a
was
veteran.
contractor life.
Yeah, so you're a veteran.
Lots of
I
veterans.
really
You're still
can't
technically
remember.
a veteran on active duty, though, right? It's just
Are
like
you?
once I believe so. Like once you sign that paper, like you're a
Oh,
veteran.
I
I
get it.
feel like.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the
I've
the rules.
really
I
ever
don't know.
noticed Veterans Day when I was
I don't-
in the
I
Army.
don't
Nope.
either.
I didn't either.
Me neither.
When I was a guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in the 90s, this is pre 9/11, it was very important at Arlington National Cemetery because it was a big deal. We did a wreath laying ceremony, and I actually did Clinton's wreath laying ceremony when he was there. So I was the sergeant of the guard gives the wreath, presents the wreath to him, and he walks with the wreath. But I was the guard who was on shift that hour that was in the box, just standing there looking stoic and weird.
Right.
But I do remember it always having an impact because it was around Arlington National Cemetery, and everybody flooded to A&C to celebrate or to remember Veterans Day and give back. So
It wasn't actually until 2008, I think, that I went to Arlington. And man, you don't understand. You see the pictures, but you don't understand how sombering that whole thing is until you're standing there just looking at the rows and rows and rows
it's crazy.
of fathers,
First
sons,
time I
daughters.
ever, first time I ever went to Arlington was for Josh Wheeler's funeral, because every other funeral that ever happened for people that I served with, I was deployed when they
Downrange, yeah.
were.
Right.
So it was, that was my first time seeing Arlington was for a funeral.
I just went this year. The first time saw it, and I was at the Iwo Jima Memorial at 4:00 in the morning. No one was there, and it was pretty cool. Yeah.
Super sombering. Right?
Yeah.
What is it? Section 60 is the section from the GWAT. I think that's where Wheeler's buried in Section 60. But I went there 2 months ago, and the Tomb Guards gave me a tour. I worked there, and nothing's really changed in 20 years. But I got the opportunity to kind of do the tour of the tomb and talk to the new Tomb Guards and share stories and then make my way around. But it always has the same impact it had on me when I was 18 years old. It had the same profound impact later.
Well, I was going to ask that. So, I mean, obviously you were in pre-war. What did that feel like when you saw it as an 18-year-old versus when you came back after doing an extensive amount of time overseas?
Yeah, it was weird because, you guys were in Ranger Battalion. I joined the Army to be in Ranger Battalion.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined when I was 17 years old and did 4 years in the infantry, and I had an option 40 contract, a Ranger contract guaranteed by the recruiter. And at the time, they were designating MOSs or job specialties based on position where you were standing in formation. Like in Fort Benning, they were like, 1st platoon, you're 11 Bravos. 2nd platoon, you're Charlies. 3rd platoon, your hotels. 4th platoon, your Mikes.
Oh, shit.
And so I was 11 Hotel. And at the end of basic training, they're like, I said, hey, the RIP instructors, the Ranger Indoctrination Program instructors just picked up the Ranger students. Why am I not in that? Like I am an option 40. And they said, there's no 11 hotels in Ranger Battalion. You should have told us. I'm like, I'm an E1. I don't even have rank. I don't even have rank on my
That sounds
shirt.
about right.
And so I got kind of screwed. And luckily for me, I was 6'1", and 3rd Infantry Regiment, probably like Asians because it diversified their ranks. So, they said, hey, we'll give you an opportunity, but you got to go to the old guard, and then you could put a 4187, which is like the magic word, which is bullshit, right? It's 4187, and then you could just laterally transfer. So when I went there, I was bummed out, man, because all I wanted to do was be in Ranger Battalion. And I was obviously not living that dream. So I went to the 2 and the Unknown Soldier, went to Ranger School, went to Airborne School, did everything I could. And at that time period, I was like mad at the Army. And I got out of the Army September 3rd of 2001 with a bad attitude, kind of feeling like I got screwed. And even was going to re-up to stay in the Army as a young E5. I was a 20-year-old E5, had a Ranger tab, was super squared away, and I said, I want sniper school and free fall school en route to Ranger Battalion. 3rd Ranger Battalion is where I wanted to go. And they said free fall is not a re-enlistment option, which I found out later. That's true. It can be,
Sure,
with a waiver. But at the time, it wasn't like you could get that without having somebody you knew. And I said, if you can't give me that, I'm not going to stay in the Army. I was so bummed out. And I didn't do that. And a buddy of mine I went to Ranger School with from the old guard as a PFC took that route, jumped into Rhino DZ with 3rd Bat, and I'm sitting at Fort living room going, dude, what the hell? Oh my God, I can't believe it. Like 9/11 happened a week after I got out. So after looking back on that experience, I really didn't appreciate it, even though it was humbling seeing all the people, the World War II vets mostly, that were coming in. After an experience of war and then going back to the place, you realize like everything these dudes do, the guards do, is for a reason, and they represent the best of Americans' military service members. And back in the day, we did it because we were kind of competing with each other. Like, you're a shitbag if you look like crap as a guard. But now it's more serious. It's like you're a shitbag because you're making our country look like shit, and all the men and women who have paid in blood over the global war on terror, and that's more significant. So I think going back to it, I was like very humbled by the experience, man.
yeah. That's interesting.
It's weird you wanted to go to 3rd Bat. That's what I gleaned from that.
Yeah, well, I wanted to go RRD.
Oh, okay.
All I heard was this Ranger Recon detachment. They do these secret missions. They're a Tier 1 organization. And I heard they're at Fort Benning. And I hated Fort Benning, but I was like,
Hated it.
I'll be near the flagpole. I'll go to all the schools and just make my life RRD. And then got screwed by the Army.
Interesting story that goes along with that. I wanted 275 because I wanted to get as far the fuck away from the East Coast as possible. My roommate wanted 375. We had our wish list. It didn't work. We got
It didn't matter.
didn't matter. We got the reverse, but he had some like a sick, I don't know, parent, somebody. And I remember walking up. I can't remember the dude's name, but he was super scary, like spiderweb tattoo on his elbow, all the shit. Again, E1 like, hey Sergeant. He's like, what do you want? I'm like, my Ranger buddy wants to stay here in 3rd Bat, and I'd like to go to 2nd Bat where he got assigned. And he gave me like the okay. I was like, oh shit, it worked. It was awesome because earlier. I think
Wait, it really worked?
It did work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, because on
Happens
Sunday,
never.
I'm sitting at Wendy's on Victory Drive.
Delicious.
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 But I
The only
also,
good restaurant.
I'm also looking at like homeless dudes and Ranger Joes, and it's hot as fuck. And this song comes on and it goes, "This is home," about 10 times. And I was like, fuck my life. Monday, I'm in there like, hey, can we switch? We switch. I had zero regrets. I love it. I would never change it, except when we stayed in Afghanistan for 6 months.
Yeah,
And
that
3rd
was-
Bat did the invasion to Iraq when we
Yeah.
were supposed to.
That was rough.
So you would have jumped in more likely, or was it
So
such
the
a light-
rotation, correct me because I was young and you were in leadership, but we would have ripped back and then we would have been up for the invasion.
Yeah.
But there was an agency chick that stood up and was like, "We know where UBL is right now."
Yeah.
Which left everybody on the ground.
Oh.
But it was torturous because it was like, you're going home in 2 weeks, you're staying a week. You're staying a week, you're going home in
6
2.
months
For another 3 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the rest of the regiments in Iraq, like rescuing Jessica Lynch and jumping into H1 and H2.
And you guys
all
were
these
just
places.
sitting in Afghanistan?
We were doing shit.
Yeah.
but-
You were running missions?
Yeah, we were doing stuff.
We
but it
went out
was
to
like-
Gardez and,
It wasn't.
That's where
Great.
I got shot.
oh, no shit.
Yeah.
You got shot in Gardez?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Tell me that story.
Yeah, I was doing a simple mission, dropping off an Alaskan tent for the A&P out there. And we were at provincial headquarters and dropping off ammo and a tent, and we're going to go right back. It's not even my fucking squad. I, like, volunteered to gun behind the 50. We took 3 trucks, a Crow system, a ASV, and then me in the open turret on a 50.
This must have been early on, because now it's like you have a 50 truck minimum, and you're only in a 3 truck convoy.
Correct. Yeah. I was early. It was 2009.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
That was bad. That was.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was rough. It was a
Yeah.
rough deployment. But yeah. So I was just loading up into the truck. Truck's open. Basically in a fishbowl. You guys are familiar. You've been in the PHQ.
Yeah.
So you're in a fishbowl right there, and we only have 3 trucks. We're a little lackadaisical, for sure. I was like out eating fucking cookies. It was December, so I'm like eating Christmas cookies, no gear, like whatever, just dropping a tent. Go to mount up. I'm putting my headset on, and I hear pop, pop, pop. I'm like, silly Afghans, like whatever,
Yeah.
pop shots in there. Ting, 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 ting. I was like, oh, wait. Boom. Hits me in the back of my legs. I fall forward, bust my knee out. I was like in shock. I was like, all right, not too much blood. I'm okay. I was like, I've been hit. I was just like...
Did you fall to the turret when you got hit?
No, I was like not even standing on the turret. I was standing in front of the turret, putting on my gear. Like the headset that I literally just put on was like shot through. Like I heard
So you were in the provincial headquarters.
Yeah, I was inside
So
the...
you're like in a secure perimeter.
Correct, yeah. So I was inside the compound, had the door open to the MRAP, and they shot directly into the fucking door as I was like mounting up, putting my gear on. They shot my radios out, and my headset, and so I couldn't hear anything. I got them to shut the door. I was screaming at the driver, who's a mechanic. I'm like, shut the door. He couldn't shut it. I'm like, tried to jump up in front. I like end up shielding him from all the bullets, which like honestly not my intention. I'm like, turn this fucking car around. If I go that way, I'm getting shot in the face for sure. And so we get the door shut, get up, and I'm like pissed at this point. Like adrenaline hits, and I'm like, fuck these motherfuckers. I could see them through the window shooting, and I'm like, I'm going up, and I just start rocking the 50. And I guess they're like screaming eventually, like, no crew serves in the city, but I'm like taking this building down.
No producers in the city. Like, go
Right.
Fuck off.
I just got shot.
Right. I'm like it's bleeding out.
Yeah.
I'm like the only one shooting back. Crow system failed. ASV gunner said that he could see them shooting at me, but his guns were up like this. So like my head, I'm like, fix your fucking weapons. Like what is happening here? I'm the only one firing back for maybe the first 10 minutes of what was a 3-hour firefight.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm not only getting shot at, but then the AMP are above me shooting that way too. So I'm like, oh, like on the 50,
Stay
but like,
low.
yeah, I'm like, oh, but I was mad. Like adrenaline's a hell of a drug. But yeah, I got shot there in Gardez, took a bunch of shrapnel, a bunch of my radio was in my legs, some fragmented bullets.
Did they
and
have to
stuff.
put tourniquets on?
No, it like cauterized. Like that's when I wiped my legs after I was blown over, and I was like, okay, it's not that much blood. It's not that much blood. I'm fine.
Crazy. I
And
feel like a
then
big old pussy.
I
right
was
now.
like,
I'm definitely a pussy.
I thought I had some fucking donuts. Like, funnily enough, because I'm an MP, and so I had a box of donuts from the chow hall before we rolled out that morning, and like I thought I had stepped on the raspberry donuts, but because my boot full of blood, I remember looking down and be like, oh, I stepped on donuts. Fuck. like what a weird, I was like, oh, that's blood.
I
Like,
just
when
fucked up the jelly donut.
Raspberry. Oh, no, that's blood.
That tastes like iron. That's weird. How did it work? 3 hours. What was the sustained gunfight? Why did it last so long? When
They
did
had the
get
higher
you?
ground on us. There was
Yeah.
a lot of them in the building. I think it was like a hotel that they were doing renovations on. That's like right across from the provincial headquarters. Yeah, they just had the higher ground. We were stuck. We were stuck.
And this is in the city?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So
Christ,
ODA
big.
comes, so I see a Humvee rolling up. They have the minigun, but then he fucking jumps out of the tree. He's the only other person that got hurt in the firefight. He jumped out and broke his leg jumping off the truck.
One of
I
the
was
ODA
like,
guys?
Yeah.
shit.
Big
I
fat
was
guy.
like,
Yeah.
No,
He's
I
telling
don't
war
think he
stories
was.
right now about how badass he is in a gunfight he got in Cortez.
How'd you break
He
your
came
leg?
in for them donuts. If it was ODA.
Yeah, he was like, I heard you got the donuts, girl. I'm coming.
He was like, "Is that jellyfish? Stay on the minigun. I'm hungry."
Yeah, so I think like 2 other, like from Lightning, QRF came, from Gardez, actual QRF came, like one of our own guys from my company. So
Where'd you go
Then
from
we-
there? Did you go? Well, Gardez was much different when we were there. Was there a medical capability in Gardez proper, the base?
no, and I didn't even go. I healed in country. So I went back to the fob. I tried to eat fucking. I tried to
Donuts?
eat lunch.
Oh.
They held chow for me, and I'm like, so my adrenaline's pumping. You know, we did the BDA finally. We're going back. We're like pulling up to the fob. Everyone's on the HESCOs, like woo, you know, scream because I mean they could hear us like lighting
yeah.
shit up for hours. So, yeah, we come back in. We get a good warm welcome. They held chow for us, and like you have to go like right now. And I'm like, no, I can eat. Like it's fine. It's fine.
I'm hungry.
I'm so hungry.
I was-
Just drop my donuts.
Yeah.
They're on the ground.
I was like, no, it's fine, it's fine. And I got my food, everything, but when I went to go sit down, like my adrenaline just was gone,
And then
and
the
I
pain.
I was like, oh, okay, now we can go. And then when I looked, I was like, okay, that's a lot worse than I thought. But
Yeah.
adrenaline was a hell of a
Did you have
drug.
anybody tick check you? Like, did somebody say, like, hey, drop your shit, let me see your legs
Yeah,
to
yeah,
check?
yeah.
Okay.
They did, and then they were like, go, and I was just being stubborn and arguing. I was like, no, I'm fine, I'm fine. They're like, you're absolutely not. Finally, they're like, you're fucking not fine at all. Like, you have to go. I'm like, all right, yeah, take me. Oh, I couldn't walk
crazy.
anymore.
That is gnarly. That's
Crazy.
a gnarly story.
Yeah, but I healed in country, so
How much longer were you there?
like 5 more months, 4 more months, something
Oh,
like that.
damn.
Damn.
Yeah.
I would have been like, I'm hurt. I want to go home.
I know. I'm
Yeah, I healed in
ouchie.
country. I also got blown up on that deployment.
After that?
Stayed, yeah.
Dude, Afghanistan is. I miss
Ugh.
Afghanistan though. This is my favorite trips with Afghanistan.
Yeah.
But they're the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Like Iraq was dangerous, but Afghanistan's a different kind of dangerous.
I was there 9, 10, 11, and 12.
Best trip I ever had was in 10.
Yeah.
And I was in Kunduz
Where's
in
that?
10. It's west of Mazar Sharif,
Up
on the
north.
other side of the valley, north
north.
Afghanistan. Yeah.
Yeah, I was RC East, and then I was at Kandahar.
Oof. Do you think being an MP, like people always go, oh, being in special operations is the most dangerous job in the military. I'm like being a cook in the 82nd Airborne Division on a fucking 50 cal in Route Irish is the most dangerous.
Yeah.
Because like, you're like,
Yeah.
hey, we need somebody to gun. Like, what? I haven't. You shot this thing? Right? No.
agree
Let me
with
show you how it
that.
works. Get on the gun. Just drive, and that's dangerous. Did you ever find your job being a military police officer? Typically, CONUS would be, I don't know if you call it internal affairs, but you would be dealing with soldiers and shit, and then you go outside the country, you go to Afghanistan, and you're dealing with, hey, you're going to be training these AMP, or you're going to be doing whatever.
So, I never really worked the road a whole lot. Like, we had when I was stationed in Germany, and before my first deployment, we had a reserve unit that did all the law enforcement, and we just trained tactically. So I
Oh.
felt super prepared.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, we were out in the field for months. Like, so in that regard. But, I mean, yeah, it's dangerous, I think, just because we work so closely with our counterparts, and some of them are amazing, obviously, as you all know. But then, you know, you eat dinner with them, and then they turn their weapons on you.
Yeah. Did you have any of that?
Yeah. Not me personally, but someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that called?
Green on blue?
Green on? Yeah, it's something. It's a
Was
color.
it green on green?
Green on blue.
Was it
Is it green on blue?
Yeah.
Which is Afghans or
Yeah.
indigenous on Americans.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Which is shitty, man. That's. I have a couple friends that have been involved, like shot up and killed by that.
Yeah.
I think and I've had several experiences and different things in Afghanistan, but some of the scariest moments were when nothing was happening, but I'm sergeant of the guard. My guys are in towers. We're in Kandahar, provincial headquarters, wherever, and I have to go do tower checks, and it's, 1 o'clock in the morning, and it's just me by myself. I've had an Afghan, pull his knife on me. I've had them, cycle around and, on
Yeah.
me.
Was it
I had to
because
tell him.
was it because they didn't know you were coming, or you surprised them, or was it
No,
literally aggressive?
so the knife was because I wouldn't be his friend,
Oh.
and I knew I was like, at that point I was like, I could shoot you right now, but I know what it's like to shoot another human, and I don't really want to do that. Like, you're not worth it. But yeah, it's because I wouldn't talk to him or give him that attention. They ended up throwing him in the jail. It was like a weird situation. Yeah, and yeah, the police chief, who has since passed, threw him in jail, and the cycling the round again. I was SOG, and this Afghan was just pointing at all of the towers, like pointing his what's the Russian machine gun?
PKM.
PKM. Yep. He was like pointing it, and they call me. I'm like, what the hell? And so I go, and he points it right at my head, cycles around. But I told him, I was like, at this point, I'd already been shot before, so I was like, if he's gonna shoot me, I wouldn't have time to think about it.
Yeah.
So he's not. I'm pretty certain he's not gonna shoot me. But if he does, shoot him back. But don't, because it's gonna be a mess. Like, if I had every right, I could have shot him. I could have taken him out right there, because he's like cycled around right at my head.
Yeah, it's
You're
intent.
done. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're done. I would have been in the right, but I was like, it's gonna be a shit show, because then it will be, what is it, green on blue?
Yeah.
It would have been really bad. So
Was he just being weird?
yeah, he went to jail too. He was just being weird. He was just like cycling it and like being weird. And
You
they,
touch
like,
a PKM like that, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It's super scary.
Yeah.
Well, to have the wherewithal to control that situation and not do it when you had intent. I mean, that's what the
yeah, I
lawyers
got
are
an
going to...
award for not shooting someone for that.
Valorous
I was like,
restraint?
that's not
There was that one.
There was that, yeah.
Yeah, it came up for a while.
Yeah, I had some pretty, nothing that bad, but like some very, very, very like tense moments with even our Inditch, who were like very, very, very vetted,
Yeah.
you know, and they would just, you know, it was a couple missions where we had some civcasts, and they were not fucking happy about it. And it's like, hey, you were out here too, dickhead. You know?
Yeah.
And, but they, you know how some of them are, and they just be like, rah, like freaking out. And I was like, take that motherfucker's gun from him.
Yeah.
And he is done. You know?
Were you using the Afghan partnering guys?
Yeah.
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 They were squared away, man, but they're just they're the top tiered guys. I think RRD trained those guys up initially, or RRC, but they live there, so they're always going to be emotional. Like I seen the same. I used to run APU for JSOC, not for the entire JSOC, but for a unit, and I was like, these guys are rad, but dude, they scare the shit out of me. And we had an instance where we pulled bolts or pulled firing pins because there was intel. Guys got in trouble for it, and it just American guys got in trouble for it. I'm like, guys,
They got in trouble for pulling
their firing pins
for
out.
mitigating risk.
Yeah, because
They were like,
Carilla, like, I mean, Carilla for the great things that he did, I think for a lot of military organizations, including the regiment, he also was a dickhead in a lot of ways. And so some of the things that he did, he's just like, we got to show the Afghans that we're partnered with them and that they could trust us. So those dudes need to burn. And they didn't burn. I mean, they were forced retired. But I get it. You know,
I took all their HE. They weren't. I didn't let them have grenades or anything.
Yeah.
You know, they can have their fucking pea shooters and that's it.
Yeah.
But you know, and talking all this shit like that, I had like a few instances because, like you said, they're fiery. They're like super emotional.
Yes, emotional. Yeah.
But I also had instances where they were like straight savage.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we had a lot of them get killed, like doing very courageous shit.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So, yeah, my last trip, I think we had 3 of them get killed, like
Wow.
in the span of like a week, and it didn't make them not want to do shit. You know what I mean?
It
like,
made him want to do it more. I
yeah,
assume,
and you know, and like you said, it goes back to like, and I've talked about this before. When a lot of dudes who come from like combat arms or soft backgrounds, they'll hear that, you know, somebody who was a PAC clerk has PTSD, and they're like, oh, why the fuck? And I'm like, dude, because they're not prepared. Like,
Yeah.
when I get in a gunfight, I'm like, all right, this is fine. I know what
Expect
I'm doing
it.
here.
Yeah.
You know, but if you're,
Disappointing when it doesn't happen.
if you're not prepared, like, if I had to go and play in an NBA game, like, I would be freaked the fuck out because I don't know how to play fucking basketball.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
it's a good analogy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
imagine that too. Like
Yeah.
you're just getting dunked on.
Right?
yeah, like I'm fucking embarrassed. Like these
Guys,
are
I
just,
hate it here.
oh no, yeah,
God damn it, LeBron.
yeah. But you know, those guys, they were trained about as well as you could train them, but they didn't have the fucking tools we had to like fight at night and like fight in confined spaces and do all these things that we are really good at, that they were in the end forced to do. And
Makes sense.
they still ponied up and like ran to the sound of the guns most of the time.
Yeah, I love the Indigs we worked with. They're great dudes.
Are you ready to get caffeinated? Well, be on the lookout for Black Rifle Coffee's massive Veterans Day sale. Use code VETERAN for 20% off site-wide at blackriflecoffee.com. It's the perfect time to stop and grab some winter merch and America's best coffee that warms the freedom-loving soul. So roll on over to blackrifle.com on Veterans Day, and the sale ends on November 13th. Moment of silence. What are we doing here?
I don't know.
How's everybody's boner?
Happy Veterans Day.
Mine's good.
Man, those war stories you're telling me is getting me all worked up.
I know.
It's crazy.
It's the
Now
it's
you
the
got
blue
boners
tongues.
for
It's a
real.
blue tongue. Now I got bonus for real.
This is a new game. We need to just slip these little nootropics into people's...
Dude, I bet you
Copenhagen.
Evan is walking around right now just
Relax.
He's
dominating
forgotten.
the world. Dude, he's like on the phone, like doing paces around the
Yeah,
company.
Evan's shit was super blue, much like Jariko's, if you need a reference. And I can guarantee that he's forgotten.
Oh, yeah.
And he's maybe dressing somebody down or having an important talk, and they're thinking, I'm not going to say shit to him.
Yeah.
Nothing.
His teeth are blue.
I
You're
wonder
just-
if anyone has said anything that everyone's just scared to say something.
I
You're
kind of
just-
have like a desire to go do math.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like
Math
I
or
feel
math?
just
Analytical?
What's
Yeah.
that? Math.
Meth or math?
Math.
Yeah.
Spell it.
I've already done math.
We don't do math in public. That's a standing rule. Okay, you have to know that. So real quick, you didn't go to Ranger Battalion. You came back in
Yeah.
and did SF things. Did you go straight away, or did you have to come back in and then do the thing?
No, I went straight in. So I basically went in through at the time, it's basically 18 X-ray. It's before, 18 X-ray program, which is like an option to slot you in 18 series.
Mm-hmm.
It's a recruiting scheme because basically they're taking dudes off the street and bringing them in.
Yeah.
So they did that in the 80s to get the numbers up.
I remember it distinctly. Like they
Yeah.
did it, they took it away,
They
and
took
then
it
they brought
away,
back in.
and they brought it back. So when I was in the National Guard, I was in a scout platoon in 30th Heavy Separate Brigade in North Carolina. I was going to college, and then I said, "Hey, I want to get back in." I talked to the active duty recruiter. Almost went a combat controller because they were treating me professionally and like, "Oh, you're Ranger qualified. You don't have to do the 2-week past assessment in Texas." They said I can go straight to the pipeline. I was like, "Holy crap! Like these dudes are squared away." He actually picked up the phone and called the schoolhouse and said, "Hey, I got a guy here. He's an E5 infantry, has a Ranger tab. What can we do for him?" And the guy on the end of the line was like, "He doesn't have to do the past. We can send him straight to the pipeline."
Mm-hmm.
And the dude's in a suit and tie. I'm like, "Holy fuck, these dudes are squared away."
So the past was the PT test. That's what you're referring
Well,
to?
no,
Or
there's
the AST, I think.
It's a selection. It's like a 2-week selection
Is
where
that
they weed people
is
out.
that what they used to call INDOC?
Okay, so no. INDOC is... the
It's
water
PJs
phase.
and controllers.
Correct. So
Yeah.
that is INDOC.
Yeah.
However, the controllers go to something, I don't know what the fuck it is, but
Yeah.
it's like a tactics phase thing. I wonder if it wasn't that. I don't
Yeah.
know what it's called. Can't remember.
They waived like a few weeks of training, and they were
yeah.
like, "You basically just report." And I think I had to go to the small unit tactics thing, but I didn't have to go to the selection for the small unit tactics thing or something like that.
Yeah, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
It
at
was
this
so
thing.
but it was so professionally done, and it was so proactive. Like he was like, "So what's your deal, your situation?" And we work through it. He makes phone calls. I'm like, "Holy crap!" Versus I go to the Army recruiter and I'm sitting down with him, and I'm in uniform because they told me to show up in uniform because you'll have a better likelihood of getting what you want when you go back to 30th A or what is it called? Not 30th AG. That's at Benning, but basically go through the MEPS.
MEPS,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I had to go through MEPS, even though I was an E5 in the Guard who had prior service, because at that time, even, this is a few weeks after 9/11, nobody knew in the recruiting system how to take prior enlisted guys off the street and bring them on. Like, you don't do that.
Yeah.
Except that after 9/11, we had to create new protocols. So the Army recruiter's like, "Guy, I want to help you out, but I got a list of dudes behind you that are going to join." And I'm like, "But I've been through basic and AIT. Like, I can go straight to the unit." They're like, "Dude, I don't have anything. I don't have paragraph and lines, authority.
There's no mechanism.
There's no mechanism."
Yeah.
So they asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, "I want to go to SF. I want to go 18 series. I want to be an SF guy." So I think a paragraph and line just kind of came up, and they're like, "We could slot you for selection, but if you go to selection, you fail your needs of the military." And this is 2001, and I went to selection in 2002 and was successful. and thank God the rest was history because it was all behind me. But if I would have failed, I would have been in an airborne unit, so it would have been like 82nd Airborne Division, whatever. But I finished and went straight into SF right after that, the Q course, and the rest of my career.
How much time lapsed when you first got out and then went back? Just like a few weeks?
Total, after everything was said and done, 6 months to a year, somewhere around there. Because I had to go, they actually sent me to 30th AG.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, actually, you know what's crazy is when I went to 30th AG, I had a tab. Because when I went through selection, I was still slotted as a guardsman, but I was slotted as a 20th group guy. And so when I got my tab, that's when they transitioned me because there was like a weird deal. The Guard had the 18 series or 18 X-ray program. Active duty didn't have it. So I think that's how they got around it. So I was a guardsman technically going through the Q course, but was guaranteed an active duty slot. So when I finished, I had a tab and had to go to 30th AG as a tabbed, I believe I was a staff sergeant in E6. And people were like, what are you, like, I'm literally in line with kids.
For chow?
Like everything. And they're like, can I help you, Sergeant? And I'm like, dude, I don't know.
I just want you out.
They told me to come here. I
Are
have
you
no
sleeping
idea.
in the barracks and everything?
In the barracks and everything.
Yeah, so for people that don't know, 30th AG, 30th AG is where you get off, like, you leave your hometown, like, you fly to Columbus, Georgia, you get on a bus, and then the bus takes you to 30th AG. It's where you go before you even go to basic training. Yeah. It's where you get your head shaved, and you get your fucking uniform and all that shit.
Did they shave your head?
No, they didn't. I was in line, though, to get that done. I was in the line when we got off the bus, and one of the drills pulled me out, and he's like, what's your deal? I'm like, dude, I don't know. They told me to get on this bus. Like, I'm coming here from the recruiting station. I think I left, like, the version of MEPS. And they told me to get on the bus, and they said, you get sorted out when you get downrange. But classic Army. So I show up, and they're like, just stay in the barracks. I mean, I'm outranking the guys in reception because the reception guys are E5s, right? None of the drills are there.
You're on the
like
top bunk.
standing at parade rest.
Yeah. I got a long tab and shit. And they're like, who the fuck is this?
They're like, all right, you're on the top bunk. You're like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm on the bottom bunk. I am putting my...
Yeah, but it was about 6 months to a year. It wasn't that long, but it was an arduous process because it was just new to the experience. Nobody knew.
But you knew within a few weeks, you're like, oh, I'm going back.
Oh,
and
yeah.
That's when you started trying, right?
The day, so here, I was in Fayetteville Technical Community College on 9/11 on terminal leave. 9/11 happens. A week later, I get notified that 30th Heavy Separate Brigade, the National Guard unit I'm with, which I drilled with once, was going to get activated. And when I knew that was going to happen, I was like, I need to get the hell out of here. Like, no offense to the National Guard, 19th and 20th, which I was in, is great. But that unit, when I drilled with them during an FTX, I was like, we're all going to die. Yeah. Like, we are all going to die. Dude.
Well, there was no funding. The quals were very sporadic.
It was
it's
Clinton era.
A thing, yeah, exactly. I remember, the late 90s, like, I had to buy my own toilet paper and shit because, like, there was no fucking funding.
Nothing.
But I do know in Ranger Battalion it was a known thing, like, especially BCO 275, we call it the BCO curse. Like, if you leave and go to another unit, you're going to get seriously wounded or die. Like, no, seriously. There's, I can think of fucking 4 dudes off the top of my head. They got out or left, went to other units, deployed, and got seriously fucked up or killed because you still act like a ranger, but you're not with rangers that have your back. So you take a lot more risk, but you don't necessarily have the top cover to take those risks. So yeah, it is scary being like a super well trained person that's used to working around other super well trained people, and then you go and fight with a group that isn't so well trained.
Yeah, I think that's the benefit of being. I think that's the benefit of kind of the SF pipeline. When I went through, you had to have prior military experience serving in a regular Army unit because it was before 18 X-ray program officially existed. So you appreciated what the regular Army was and then what you were getting into. So when everybody was complaining about, like, dude, what is this? I'm like, at least you're not in the regular Army. Because trust me, it sucks, and the lowest common denominator there is real low, like bottom of the barrel.
I remember being in free fall doing PJ stuff in Yuma, and I ran into my first like X-ray guy, and I didn't know about that because I just didn't pay attention.
Yeah,
you know.
That's when every service went to Yuma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was
Yeah.
there. And I run into an E6, and I'm like, "Cool, man. So like, where you been? What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm nothing, man." I'm like, "I'm knocking out free
I
fall."
just showed up.
This is in like 2006, 7, something
Yeah.
like that. I go, "Were you like new guy?" He's like, "I haven't deployed anywhere, man. I'm like just getting free fall."
That's actually something like, because you I guess you kind of saw both sides, but like, so say when Travis, my brother, who you know, was a new guy in a team, right? He came from 3rd Ranger Battalion, but he's the new guy. How did group like change the culture to assimilate new guys that were X-rays? Like, you get, like you said, there's a dude who shows up on a team, he's your junior, whatever. You have to actually treat him like a new guy.
Yeah.
So was there like a dynamic shift there, or did SOPs change, or was it just kind of a uncommunicated thing? Like, because, or I guess I'll give you like a scenario. So like, if I'm a brand new 18 Bravo, just got out of the Q course, and I'm my buddies and 18 Charlie just got out of the Q course, we show up to the same team. I've been in the Army for 5 years. He's an X-ray. Like, what are the differences? Do they like size you up, or do they kind of treat everybody different? Or
Yeah, when I was a team sergeant, I had a sniper team, so my guys had to have Sephardic, Sodic, free fall. So they had to have a lot of training prior to showing up. And interestingly enough, half of my team was at 18 X-rays. And what I found, Tim Kennedy is an 18 X-ray. He was one of the first classes of 18 X-rays. I think it's like the 2nd or 3rd class. Most 18 X-rays that made it completely through the pipeline were the most intelligent and capable dudes. Now, some of them had egos, but they were super capable. So if like Denman or Travis, your brother, we were sniper teammates together. He is actually my cell leader in the SIF. When we were together, if I showed up new to a team and I had a Ranger tab, respect. Now, know your position in place, but when it comes to running indige, when it comes to tactics, I'm going to lean on you and your expertise. You're an 18 X-ray. You just showed up. What did you do prior? Were you a banker? Were you a physical fitness teacher? What did you do that had that experience? Because you had to have some life experience. And so what I found is most 18 X-rays who showed up to the team brought some other asset to bear versus a technical skill set. And my 18 X-rays that showed up to my team, I would encourage them and make them go to Ranger School. Because I sent 2 of my guys to Ranger School because they showed up. They didn't have any small unit tactic experience. I said, hey, if you want to sharpen the learning curve for yourself and save you a lot of time, maybe even years, go to Ranger School. And the guys that I sent to Ranger School and that came back were like, I'm glad you sent me to Ranger School because now I understand. And I could be that subject matter expert. But for the most part, most 18 X-rays that I've experienced are super squared away, man.
Yeah.
And they typically were smarter because they were recruited with higher GT scores and aptitude. So some of the issues that you got with active duty guys who had bad habits or institutional things, this is how it's done. Those guys, the 18 X-rays, were more shapeable versus an old crusty fucking dude who his way was the highway,
Yeah, it's interesting.
That does make a lot of sense. I've had the question asked in different areas, like what makes a good PJ? Because I've seen both sides. I said the PJs that succeed are the ones that were exceptional because they dealt with the bullshit. They got through INDOC. We lost 80% of the dudes. But it's the person that can learn information, in a didactic or drilling or rock drill situation.
I don't know what didactic means. That's because you're a PJ and I'm
from in a classroom.
Oh, okay.
Right? So you show it on the whiteboard, you drill it, and then you practice it, and then you go do it. But they could take that information, they could metabolize it quickly, and then apply it. Like, that was the strength of them, which doesn't sound too different than an X-ray.
I don't understand what you just said. You're smart. So how did you become
They
a
were quick
PJ
learners.
from being a NUG Ranger?
So I was a section leader over in the snipers, and at the time, we had a couple guys that would go walk for, CAG or whatever else. I don't want to be an SF guy. And to be 100% candid, I don't want to deal with Indige. Like, I'm like, I don't want to teach them. You know what I mean? I don't want to run with them.
Which is most Rangers.
I was also super juvenile. I didn't understand, that force multiplier and, all the benefits at that time. And guys that would go outside of battalion and not make it were not well received coming back. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it wasn't a good thing. So everybody that I saw, running around with Delta guys, they were all older. They were in their 30s. You see them and they look ancient to you at the ripe age of 20 or 21, 3, whatever. So I'm like, well, fuck, man. And we would have guys walk and they'd go, hey, great job. Come back in 3 years. That was a typical thing back then. So I made the most educated decision at the time. I had 4 deployments under my belt and I wanted something more. I wanted that free fall reenlistment or something, learn some more shit. I loved being a Ranger, but I just needed more education. I wanted to learn more. So we had done some missions and I worked with some PJs and I did what I normally do as a gear queer. And I'm like, it's a fucking cool jacket. Like, is that issued? Because I bought mine at REI, He's like, oh yeah, man. Like, I got all these solo boots and like all this cool shit. So I thought, all right, you do medicine. You have cool ways to get places to do medicine. I thought, all right, that sounds cool. And it probably offends a lot of PJs, but I don't give a fuck. So I do I had to crack the code on how do you go from the Army to the Air Force. I talked to, 3 different recruiters, and active duty wasn't taking sister services.
Because you're still on active duty when you transition, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So active duty wasn't taking sister services. So they said, well, you can go to the Guard or Reserve. I have a family friend named Brenton Lincoln. His family owns Lincoln Electric, which is kind of popular everywhere now, but mostly on the East Coast at the time. And he was the first combat rescue officer. So PJs didn't have officers. So it was like your highest enlisted person sitting in the briefs, and he didn't have the ass behind it, basically. Mm-hmm. So they wanted to create an officer.
The crow position, yeah.
The crow position. So he was the first crow, and he was at the 2-4. I call him up, and I was like, hey, dude, hey, you, this is me. This is what I'm trying to do. And he sent me a map. And I just picked a location and applied to Patrick Air Force Base. And that was a reserve unit. Went down, did my selection, and figured it out. Come to find out that if you were from a special unit like an SF guy, a MARSOC guy, well, there was no MARSOC then, or a Ranger dude, you could go to active duty, but the recruiter didn't speak that language. Mm-hmm. So that's how I stumbled into this reserve guard thing and did that. I just wanted more education, and that's where I found myself, more military education.
How long have you been on the Reserve or National Guard side?
So that was 2005 is when I transitioned. And that, not like that. Fucking pump your brakes, Jenna.
Tell me more about that.
Well, that blue thing changed it all. It fucked up my surgery. So I started in 2005, did my pipeline, so I was out for a little less than 2 years. And then I'm still in the Guard now. But I got out. I had a, full-time position kind of brewing. And then I gave it up to go do other things in 2009. And then I did that from 9 until not this summer, but the prior summer. And then I came to work for Black Rifle Coffee.
Yeah.
Here I am.
The rest is history.
Ta-da. I did want to hit this real quick because you brought up where you were on 9/11. And we're talking about Veterans Day. We're not talking about 9/11, but I'd like to know what brought you all to the table or where you were at and how that made you feel as a veteran on 9/11. I know where you were at.
I was with you, sucker.
That is true. Where were you?
You guys
Jenna?
were together, and that's cute. I was in homeroom. I was in 8th grade on 9/11.
8th grade? Damn, we're old.
Yeah, but what did that feel like? Did you?
I didn't really know what was happening, honestly. My homeroom teacher put it on the TV in homeroom, and
Homeroom, I forgot about that.
Yeah, she was like upset, and I was like, Twin Towers, like, what the fuck is that? Like, I was so ignorant. Like, I'm in 8th grade. Why do I need to know what the World Trade Center is? I wasn't quite in finance yet.
Was it 13? You're 13 years old?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, however old you are, I'm not sure. But however old you are in 8th grade, and my uncle was an air traffic controller, so he kind of knew what had happened, and my aunt came and got me and my cousins out of school, and it was
Where's
like
this at?
panicking.
Where's
In
that?
Georgia.
Oh.
Yeah.
Where at in Georgia?
South of Atlanta.
Okay.
Right south of Atlanta. And
Fayetteville? Peachtree City?
no, it's actually Henry County.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, Henry
Oh,
County.
I know.
But, yeah, so I went home and watched the news, and I remember being like, what the fuck is happening? We just went to war. My brother had, like, just went to Israel. His girlfriend at the time, her dad, like, worked in the State Department or something, so we went over to visit her, and I was like,
State Department.
yeah, correct. And so I was like, oh no, my brother's over there, you know. So I remember being sad about that. But I think it fueled my fire. I knew before then that, like, military was my path.
Really?
My grandmother was a Marine.
Nice.
Oh,
So, yeah,
badass.
she was a badass. And so I knew that that was my path already, and that kind of just stoked the fire for sure. That, like, all right, well, this is for sure what I'm doing with some vengeance, maybe.
Yeah,
you
fuck
know?
yeah. Was there ever a point where you wavered, or that was all the way through? Graduate high school and then
Oh,
straight
I went to military school. Yeah.
Were you a bad kid?
Okay, so that's a different because that's a different conversation.
Different podcast.
They threatened me, actually. My parents were like,
I
"You're going out there."
volunteered, but I was, like, getting into some other stuff that I shouldn't be,
Mhm.
and I knew that it was going to affect my life. Like, I knew that I wanted to end up in the military, and if I stayed, I probably wouldn't be doing that, right? So, yeah, so I went to military school, graduated early, and went to MEPS, like, and just fast-tracked it.
Nice.
So,
That's super rad. I like that.
What about you? Where were you at? Besides being with him, where were you guys at?
yeah.
I was on my first TDY. I literally showed up on, I think, a Thursday or Friday, and a guy named Parento smoked the shit out of me until Monday when I got on a C-17
Yeah, buddy.
in-flight rig to jump into Germany. We had been in Germany for, I only remember how many weekends I got shit hammered as a 19-year-old kid or 18, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then we were in a mountain village. Jariko's told it like in its entirety on a different podcast, but we were just hanging out doing things, and they called us all into this like a fountain kind of courtyard thing. And I don't remember if it was Tom Wood that put it out, or somebody stood up and was like, "Hey guys,
I think
this
it was
is
Frank Jenny. He was our company commander.
okay."
Yeah.
Okay, stood up and was like, "Hey, here's the sit rep," or kind of put some stuff out, and if anybody has family in these areas. And they started handing out iridiums, because at first it was like, is this a training thing? Like, should I go get my snacks? And like, we're going to go patrol for, I don't know, whatever. Because we walked, after that jump, to digress a little bit, we jumped and then we walked for 50
miles.
50 miles. And people are falling out,
50
dropping
mile
like the
infill.
French. And I'm carrying a Skedco with a sledgehammer, bolt cutters, and a hoolie, and a 203 thing. I'm like, this Ranger shit is fucking, this is a fucking real deal, man. Like, my squad ended with like 4 of us, maybe. Like, my
Wow.
squad leader was gone. Like, all these people bailed out.
I forgot about that movement.
A dude got smashed on the Autobahn.
Yeah, Lieutenant Speed Bump.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I'm walking along, and all I remember is we had a weapon squad leader, Tito. All I remember is him walking like staggered legged and bent over and vomiting. And I can see the light through my shitty 14s, and it's just green, and we're walking down a hill. And then I hear that flesh packing sound, like, somebody got smashed. I didn't see shit. But I guess, and clear it up for me, because, again, I was retarded. One of the guys pushed the other guy kind of out of the way and then took a vehicle to his ruck and back. And, like, I just remember seeing something like, what did I just watch happen? And then we figured it out. They push across, medevac comes in. I think they brought in a helo, maybe. And
Yeah,
then,
light
like,
flight.
and we're all hanging out. I'm like, I'm really tired. Maybe we won't have to continue this. No, we just kept walking.
Yeah.
And
Did
then
he survive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
He is fucked up, though. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. That, and I don't think I've talked about that infill on a podcast before. It was,
Here's the hilarious part. My squad leader at the time was kind of a dirtbag, and I'm brand new. Someone's trying to break in the podcast studio, everybody.
I think it's my dog.
Yeah.
That's a tail.
I love it. It's just where we were.
That's a
It's
happy
great.
boy.
So he was kind of a dirtbag, and he walks up to me on the C-17. He's like, "How tall are you?" I was like, 6 foot. He hands me the Dragon Missile jump pack. I don't even know what it is. And they just hook it to me. And I'm like,
With the Skidco?
Skedco
Yeah.
and all the shit in it.
You're jumping it.
Yeah. And I was like, all right. So I yeet out of this aircraft, and everything's all fucked up, normal static line jump. And then everything unfucks. I'm like, this is beautiful, so cool. And then I don't know what to do, so I just lower everything, and it twists into a ball of fuck with my leg stuck in it. I land like a sack of shit, and it was like that punched in the mouth white, like. And I was like, all right, so we're in Germany. So I unfuck all this thing, strap it on my back, and walk for a really long way.
Rangers lead the way.
And you guys were walking on the Autobahn?
We were walking we walked 50 fucking miles. So it was like not all on base. It was like from, was it Spike DZ to it was a German base where we ended up doing a raid at the end. Yeah. But we had,
it's like a soccer field or something, wasn't it?
It was the base had been a French army base until it closed, and then the Germans took it over. But it was a German army base. But it was actually, I mean, it sucked, but it was actually awesome because we walked through like German village. We weren't on the Autobahn. We were on like German roads. We did cross it a couple times. Do you remember crossing a field and hearing a garbage concert in the distance?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was wild. That was.
How many days did this last?
It was about 2.5 days. We were fucking hucking it, man. We walked the whole time.
Yeah.
That was some old school Ranger shit.
That was super Ranger
And our
shit.
rucks were probably in the neighborhood of 85, 90 pounds.
Ooh,
so heavy.
So full loads.
This Skedco would just be hanging to one side, and I'm countering.
And like he said, like his squad, my squad was the only squad, no big deal.
Yeah.
I was a squad leader at the time, a rifle squad leader. My squad was the only squad in the entire company that everybody finished the movement.
Damn.
And it was because back then we would carry, I mean, this is how much we can date ourselves here. We didn't have a blowout kit yet. Mm-hmm. The right one-quart canteen pouch was like
Ranger ratchet,
a Curlex, a ratchet strap, and like 2 IV bags or some shit.
Yeah.
And so the other variable here was, I'll never forget, all of us fucking hated the battalion intel guy because he briefed weather. And he was like, oh, it's early September, late October in Germany. It's going to be really mild and not hot and blah, blah. So we did an in-flight rig on a C-17 the whole way over. So, like, you're kind of hydrating, but not really because you don't want to have to fucking piss every 5 minutes. There's one piss tube in the back of the fucking bird.
Yeah.
So I remember, I think I was the number 1 jumper. I didn't jump master that. I jump out, fucking check canopy, and then I like kind of looked down and I was like, I'm already fucking sweating. It was hot as fuck. It was like 95.
God.
Hit the ground. By the time I packed my fucking main in my kit bag, I was like drenched. I was like, ooh, this is going to be bad. Yep. So I start fucking drinking water. I don't know, about 3 miles into it, our platoon sergeant fucking shits the bed. And then, dudes just started fucking dropping like flies. And I go to my team leaders. I'm like, stick all your guys with their first bag. Like, everybody take a fucking bag.
Smart.
And I fucking took a bag. And I set it on my fucking ruck frame, and I was fucking road marching with a fucking IV in.
Yep.
And dudes started dropping so bad that our CO was like, all right, at the next, because it was farm fields. There weren't a lot of trees. There was no shade.
Yeah.
So he's like, he kind of does like a net call, gets the guidons in. At that point, I think I was like the acting platoon sergeant. So I go into the center, and he's like, next big piece of fucking shade we see, we're going to stop until the fucking sun drops a little bit, and then we're just going to walk all night. We're going to kind of frag the plan here. And we go in, and I could see this group of trees. It was like, a K away. And I'm just like,
yes,
tunnel vision on it. And my fucking vision has started just like sink in. And I'm like looking through drinking straws by the time we get across. And I'm like, please don't go down. Please don't go tits up. Come on. And I remember, I'm having a lot of memory unlocks from the blue pill.
Yeah.
We
need more.
Memory unlock.
I had heard a rumor that ibuprofen lowered your core temp. So I was popping 800 milligram Motrins and just chewing them like fucking Tic Tacs. So I would like not go down as a heat casualty. Yeah. I'm sure that was the opposite of what I should have done. But we get there, man, and like people are just fucked up. I think by that time we'd walked around 10, 15 miles. Mm. And like I said, I was the acting platoon sergeant. Another platoon sergeant had a guy go missing that morning. Turns out he was like a huge shitbag that just wanted to go AWOL, so he faked disappearing. Oh so he had not gotten to put the boots on that he wanted because he was in a hurry to leave. So his feet, like he was wearing green jungle boots. All the green on the jungles were just like, that like dark red from blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so his feet were just hamburger. Oh. He made the movement though. But yeah, so we kind of waited a little bit, walked through the night, by the end of that movement, I was carrying my rifle. I had a 240 on my ruck and a shotgun on my ruck. Because, like, we were just carrying everybody's shit.
Yeah.
Sensitive
And,
items.
so we make it to our attack position for this raid that we were doing on this, like, German camp. And they had, like, some 1st Armored Division guys as, like, our Op 4. It was not a good night to be one of them motherfuckers. And, so we leave the attack position. By this time, I think we were in the attack position. We did a little bit of planning, hasty planning and shit to do the raid. And we stepped off to go do the raid is when that guy got hit by the car. So we were walking. He was a PL of 1st Platoon. And he was still fucking droning hard. He had not recovered in our little moment of rest in this attack position. And he just kind of like, because like you said, we were wearing 14s. So like he didn't really see, like, I could see when cars would come up, you could see that ambient light flicker. But I think he was just such a drone at that point. He just didn't give a fuck and started walking across the road. His RTO reached up and tried to pull him back. And the car hit him and the RTO's arm. So it like shattered the RTO, like broke his arm in like, 15 places.
Wow.
And that guy got launched about 100 meters. That car was doing like 80.
Okay, so that's not a figment of my imagination when there was a human flying through the air.
No.
Like,
And
the ruck saved him probably because he probably landed.
He was wearing, at that point, we'd gotten our plates, like the old school Ranger RBA, which were just plates that you would throw on under your LC. He had his plates, his ruck, and his K-Pod on. And his ruck frame was destroyed. His plates were broken. His M4 was in like 40 like it exploded basically.
Oh my God, dude.
And luckily we had the battalion surgeon and the battalion PA walking with our platoon or our company for some reason. And the was his name Slevin, the PA?
The Asian dude?
No. I can't remember. Doesn't matter. But he was doing like his initial assessment on him and like sweeping him. And he had like slices in his fucking hands from all the shattered bones in the dude's legs.
Oh my
Like he was destroyed. And like when he took off, like all the medics were like, he's fucking done. He's not gonna fucking live. He's alive right now, but he's gonna die. But he lived. And
Has he recovered?
He had a lot of brain stuff. Like
oh my God. And he was a platoon leader? Was he an officer?
He was lieutenant, yeah.
Dude, what did you guys do with the fallouts on that movement? Did you just like rendezvous them into a...
Yeah, that was another a little funny from that one. So me and Kevin have this voice that we do of our former platoon sergeant.
Oh, what voice you talking?
His voice right here.
That's really good.
So we're sitting in the attack position. My best buddy and me were Dave McDowell. We're the only squad leaders left at that point. I was a little senior to him, so I was the acting platoon sergeant. And our platoon sergeant came rolling into the attack position so they brought all the fallouts back
in a vehicle.
In vans, integrated them back into the platoons for the raid, for the hit. So
it was like a Call of Duty revive. Like
it was like everybody got their cheat codes, and he came cruising in and was like fire breathing in this fucking patrol base, like, "What do y'all look so tired for?" And I was like, "Is he fucking joking? Is he fucking around?" And he was serious, and I was like, "Who fucking motherfucker?" And that started a long and colorful relationship between me and that platoon sergeant.
It's amazing the detail that you remember all this in. I remember, events, the things, right, and portions of it. One of the most notable is I was out of toilet paper, and I used a moist towelette from an MRE.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought I was good, and then I took 2 steps, and it felt like fire in my butthole. And then Figueroa hooked me up, the guy in my squad, with some Vaseline. And then I always carried Vaseline after that for the rest of my life.
Vaseline's key.
I've never done that.
I use not Vaseline, but I use what is the Body Glide. When I discovered Body Glide,
yeah, but that's new.
There was
that's true.
On this when I was brand new guy. In a squad you have the blank guy, like tape guy, TP guy, fucking 550 cord guy.
Yeah. And
you have these little extra responsibilities as privates.
Yeah.
Right. And the TP guy was this guy we called Cruddy. His last name was, or his first name was Grady, but he had gotten these fucking blue pills, man. Memory unlocks are crazy right now.
Your mouth is so blue.
Yeah.
Why did his work better?
And these memory unlocks are great.
Yeah. So
he took more.
We called him Cruddy because he, again, dating ourselves, he got a Blockbuster video membership.
Oh, yeah.
and didn't pay his late fees, so they would always call, and they always called him Cruddy because they couldn't read his handwriting when he signed up. So we started calling him Cruddy too. Anyway, he was the TP guy, and in the toilet paper, he kept a chapstick. So he did, instead of Vaseline, he would hit up the O-ring with a little chapstick.
Yeah.
And there was a team leader in our squad who will remain nameless, who was a real fucker. And he came out to me, bitching at me, wanting the TP, and I was like, that's not my job, but I know where it is in Cruddy's Ruck. So I went and got it and gave it to him. He looks at it, goes off, takes a shit, and he walks back, and he's fucking putting the chapstick.
I knew you were going to say that. I fucking knew it. I'm like,
He's put the chapstick on. I was like, good, Corporal, thank you.
That is fucking
Gross.
awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
So that's where you guys were on 9/11.
Yeah, we were in Germany.
So circle back to Veterans Day, though. What made you want to join the military? What made you?
So I grew up with, fucking Rambo and like all the movies and all the things, and I always knew I wanted to be in the military. I had become a firefighter actually right out of high school, and I was doing firefighting things and working a part-time job, and then my grandfather died, and I was like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna leave. So I had read a couple books, and I had a family. Actually, it was a girl I was dating. It was her family. They had a 75th Ranger Battalion medic who kind of educated me on it. So when I read up on Ranger stuff, because naturally it was like, I don't know, SEAL, or I just knew what I knew from books and from movies and shit like that. But then I realized that like Ranger Battalion kind of went to war every 9 years. So I just did a little math, and I'm like, well, they're fucking rad, right? They're doing awesome stuff. And I decided that's where I was going to go. So I had to figure out this, contract thing. My ASVAB was decent or pretty good. So they tried to talk me into some other stuff. So I told them to fuck off. But my dad, he said, you have to talk to every service. So I talked to the Marine Corps. They had a weird deal where it was like you could pick a location but not a job or something. So that didn't work. The Navy was like, well, you have to lie about your asthma. I had childhood asthma. So you have to take a methacholine challenge to get in, like MEPS and all that shit. And then I'm like, well, let's go figure out this Ranger contract thing. As I'm going back, he's like, we got to talk to the Air Force. And that's where it's kind of funny, because I came in, the recruiter's like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I shoot people in the face. And they go, we don't really do that. Like, we have CCT and we have PJ. And I was like, that sounds gay. And then, yeah. And then I don't remember exactly, but it took a couple weeks. I ended up getting a Ranger contract, and then away I went.
So you have no family that were also veterans?
None. Well, let's see where we're at here. Perfect. Hour and 12. I think there's no better way to commemorate Veterans Day than veteran stories. Yeah?
Should we start telling veteran stories then?
I feel like I've been in a hole of like great storytelling. It's been like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't. Blue boner pill.
Dude.
We need all
Great.
of that.
Those nootropic things.
Dude.
Yeah. And for the listeners, nootropics are properly administered orally, and then you snort one, and then you put one in your prison wallet.
Yeah.
That's the best way
Keister.
to do it, and that's from a
With chapstick.
poorly trained medical professional. All right, guys. So as we wrap up, Jariko, Mike, Jenna, thank you guys for coming on. I appreciate your time. Also, take a look at Black Rifle Coffee, the website, because there are multiple Veterans Day sales and opportunities for our listeners and for our exclusive coffee membership folks and those who want to pick up some merch or coffee. So check that out, and happy Veterans Day, and I appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
That concludes today's training. Any questions? Woo! Drum titties, boy!